start with the wireframe one because it's a nice simple one to do. So this is called, if we look here at the moment, I haven't even named it correctly, so I'm going to call this m_wireframe. So I've named that correctly now. And this here I need to name m_color, just to name them correctly. So if we go back to our GL window here, now as I've included QObject here, this actually gives us access now to some non-standard C++ code that we can use to put in some methods in our class here, which are implemented then by Qt. So what I'm going to add here is an element called public slots, like that, and I'm going to add a simple method call, and in this case it's going to be called void toggle wireframe. It's going to take a bool parameter, which in this case I'm going to call mode, like this, and just to make it conform to the coding standard. And it's good practice as you go to actually do your documentation and your code. So I'm going to add some docs.gen comments, brief, a slot to toggle wireframe mode, at param, an input parameter, mode, the mode passed from the toggle button. And I'll just take this bit of code here as well into the GL window, and I'll put this at the bottom there, make it a member of GL window, toggle wireframe mode, we'll put that there. And what I want to do is, as we're passing in a bool, I'm going to go back to GL window again, and in private I'm going to add a attribute for this class, and it's going to be brief, there's my phone, at brief m wireframe mode, and it's going to be a bool m wireframe, like that. And then in my class here I'm going to say m wireframe equals mode, set the mode like this. By default I'm going to set my mode equals false, like that. I'm then in my drawing here going to say if m wireframe equals true, then polygon mode equals GL lines, else polygon mode equals GL fill. Like that. So depending on that flag now, what we should get is either a solid or a wireframe drawing mode, just to check that that's going to work. I will run it, and by default it should be filled in. The next thing that we've got to approach is the actual connecting of the Qt signals and slots together. And here you can see that we've got our solid there. Now when this button is clicked, what we're going to get is a signal emitted, and this is coming from the main window form. So what we need to do is to connect together in our main window form the signal that's going to come from our button, which is in this case is called m_wireframe, and the slot that we want to connect it with, and also the actual signal that's being sent. So if I'll put in here, there is a macro that's connected in here. So it's a function called connect, and you can see we've got lots of parameters here that come through. So the first parameter that we want is the sender. In this case it's going to be n_UI pointed to m_wireframe. The signal is going to be signal open brackets, and in this case there's a signal called toggled, like this. Correctly, make sure I'm doing that correctly, because I do occasionally wrong. Yes, I did do it wrong. I need to do the, sorry, in Python, in PyQt, you put that in quotes. Toggled, that's going to be bool, like that. Then the next one is the member that we want to send the signal to. So in this case it's m_GL, which is our GL window, and we then have to tell it where we want to again send that to. So again, if we look at this is one that I've done before, the slot that we want to pass it to, and in this case it's going to be slot, and it's toggle wireframe bool, which you see is picked up. We close the brackets like that. One thing I forgot to add in my GL window, when that method is called, we need to tell it to obviously redraw the screen. So I'm just going to add update GL there. So with a bit of luck now, this code is being generated now by the meta object compiler. So you can see as I toggle on that, the signal's being sent through. What's actually happening is the compiler, when it runs through QMake, will encounter the QObject element here, and if we look at the compile output, you'll notice that there's quite a lot of extra stuff here, one of which is the running of the mock subsystem here. So you can see the elements of mock there. And what the mock meta object compiler does is it instruments together a load of code here. So we can see now there's two mock files. These are machine generated bits of code which will change every time, and you can see what it effectively does is that it looks at the methods that are there, and it will go through and generate the code for the window. So in this case we should see different elements it's generating. I was actually in the wrong directory then. Let's just go to the correct one. NGL, Qt, NGL there, and if we look at mock there, we can see the correct ones. The other one had way too many bits of code in there, and we can see here that it's got the toggle wireframe method that's being called there, and we should also see the signal there that's going. So in summary there, we've wired together a single method caller in this case, and we've created this method toggle wireframe as a signal, and in our main window we've connected the user interface element, the signal that's being emitted from that as we go through. If we're unsure of what signals there are, we can look at the help in the Qt for the actual object. So again, if we go to our user interface here, click on the wireframe button there, we should be able to get the help on all of these objects. So in this case that was a, which one did it pick up? It didn't pick up the correct one there. I need to look at it all, but you can see there's public functions for all methods and things like that, public slots and signals. In this case the one only had destroyed, but if we were to look for correct ones in the reference documentation. So if we go to our reference documentation, our class is there. In that case, that was a Q push button. We look at our push button there. We can see all of the public functions, the public slots, and so on. And what we should be able to do is see a list of the signals that it can generate and use as we're going through. So next time we're going to go through and add a few more of these. For now we'll stop here.